pickle, hit the arrow sign. It's time for Monday Morning Fallout. Monday Morning Fallout, of course, when we overreact to the football weekend, and what an overreaction weekend it is. Let's start with my three big thoughts. Thought number one, do it with defense. I think this happens every year, and maybe somebody can go back and just listen to the previous 5 iterations of this week in Monday Morning Fallout and see if I just say this every week, every time.
And pull up the receipts.
This time of year, it really feels like this is when defenses starts taking center stage.
Yes.
I think in the early part of the season, that you see offenses, and we kind of go gaga over the offensive numbers. Now, when you start talking about contenders, we start focusing on the teams with defense, which is strange, right? Because we normally say that offenses are the teams that are the units that take a little bit of time, a little bit of seasoning to get going. And yet, one thing I was struck by this week was just how many teams won their games, won big-time games with defense. You were at one of them.
Yes.
You were at Munster and Windthorst. Munster wins 16-8. And a really dominating defensive performance that Windthorst got 2 points off of safety. And then basically Munster got 2 touchdown runs from Colton Deckard.
Well, it was one large explosive play that won the game. That was it.
It was like that 83-yard run.
That was it.
And that's it. That's it. Everything else was
the other thing. That game
nip and tuck.
went by super quick, so every possession legitimately mattered when it came to the defense.
Right. So they end up getting a huge win. Munster gets a huge win over Munster, or Windthorst, rather. And they do it.
They did not beat themselves.
They do it on defense. Right? Let's talk about another big game. Frisco and Denison. Frisco beats Denison 28-14, slowing down one of the more explosive running attacks in the state with what? Defense. The game we were watching on our watch-along, Vandergrift and Cedar Ridge. Cedar Ridge, Vandergrift completely snuffed out Cedar Ridge's attack. And really, that game was, they scored with what? In the fourth quarter.
Yes.
It was 28-0 or 35-0 or something like that, and then they scored in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
As
soon
a
as
little bit
it
of window
started.
dressing,
Yep.
right? What about Cy Park and Bridgeland?
Yeah.
Okay. As much as we go gaga over Cy Park's offense, which is fun, kind of a wing tee, they throw the ball a lot out of it, blah, 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 blah. The defense is what ended up winning that game. And I know Connor Wigman didn't play in that game, but I don't know if it would have mattered. I think the Cy Park defense was doing it. Ryder and Lubbock Cooper did. 2 outstanding defenses going at it. In the end, Cooper's able to make a couple of extra stops and win the game. Those, to me, that is, to me, the separation of true contenders right now. And that is one thing that I think I'm focusing on right now is whose defense is starting to play at that championship caliber.
Well, and we always say, too, defense travels.
Absolutely.
Defense is able to travel, and when you start getting into these weeks of the season and, you don't have that necessarily, like, electrifying playoff rush every time you walk out there, so it's kind of like that mid-season drag of going, okay, a couple more weeks here, let's get it done, and that's what defenses do.
Right. So, my first big thought is do it with defense. Second big thought. Different ends of the G5 spectrum.
Boy, howdy, is this accurate.
I think, as far as group of 5 teams in the state of Texas are concerned, you really have the haves and the have-nots, and there's not a whole lot of middle right now. Here are the teams, so there are 7 teams in 7 group of 5 teams in the state of Texas, right? Houston. They were idle, but they have that one loss in the year and have looked great ever since, right? SMU, undefeated. They were idle, no notes for them. UTSA, big win over Rice, dominating victory, undefeated, 7-0, and now ranked.
How about that?
The nationally ranked UTSA Roadrunners. Meep, meep. And UTEP, who is so used to being on the other part of this conversation, UTEP. I wish you'd pull the clip. I said on Friday, I called him. I said they're going to win. They're going to beat Louisiana Tech. And sure enough, they do. They were absolutely outstanding. And the UTEP Miners are 6-1. They're bowl eligible, right? So you got those 3, or those 4 rather. And then you've got the other 3, and they're in G5 hell. Is what they are. Rice loses to UTSA. Now, Rice is obviously a different situation, and that's always going to be a build, and I think that says more about how good UTSA is than it says about Rice.
But they also got shut out.
But at the end of the day, you are what your record says you are, and they are not very good right now. And Coach Bloomgren's got to do something to turn that thing around. Texas State in a game they could have had against Troy.
Yep.
And they have not been able to finish, and I think there's no way to describe what's going on down there in San Marcos aside from calling it disappointing. And there's North Texas.
God.
And
we could not believe when we looked at halftime and it was 42-7.
This was Friday night. It is really pretty astonishing how quickly that program has gone from like Conference USA contender, like a team we were talking about in the same way that we talk about UTSA right now, in the sense of like, man, they're fun. Like, rank North Texas.
Yeah.
Like they're fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at
like,
least throw them 25 or 24.
Yeah, get some also receiving votes, right? Stuff like that. To now, genuinely
awful.
The worst team in Texas?
Yeah.
The worst FBS team in Texas?
I mean, it's a head-to-head with Rice.
We'll see what happens when they play Rice. And Texas State, certainly, they're not going to play Texas State, but that's certainly in that conversation. But the downfall has been swift, and I just don't see how Seth Luttrell survives it.
No, you can't blame this on losing Mason Fine either. Like the one player should not make for a torrential downfall.
Let's put it this way. If it was all hinging on one player, that is even more damning.
Yes.
About what's going on up there.
Absolutely.
And I don't think is Ren Baker still the AD?
He is.
I don't think Ren Baker is going to fire Seth Luttrell in the middle of the season.
No.
The last coach they did fire in the middle of the season.
Yep, it was after a loss to Portland State.
Dan McCarney when they got beat by 60 by Portland State at home. But this is not that. But I can't see how when Black Monday comes, his name will be on it.
Yep, absolutely.
I can't see.
Well, and I just don't. If you go up against a team that is like obviously Marshall's in the upper echelon of Conference USA teams, but if you go up against a Rice or a Southern Miss and you are down 42-7, he might get called at that point. But
Okay, yes.
I think he makes it to the end of the season, but
I hear what you're saying.
There is a thing that could happen.
I hear what you're saying, but Marshall's not that good.
No, they're not.
Anyway, there's three big thoughts. Or I'm sorry. Thought number 3. That was thought number 2. I got
Reel it back.
Thought number 2, stretch run.
3. Thought number 3.
Thought number 3, stretch run. Come on, coffee. Work. Pickle, I don't know if you realize this.
Okay.
Right here, right now, where we're sitting, in this moment, at this spot in the space-time continuum.
Okay.
We're at the exact midway point of the Texas high school football season.
You are exactly right. We're heading into week 9.
We are
through 8 weeks.
We are as close to week 1 as we are to state championships at AT&T Stadium. And so now we have 3 weeks to decide everything. Who's getting in to set the brackets? We have a pretty good idea of a number of teams that are going. I think Allen's probably going to make the playoffs.
You know what? Hot take. Hot take alert.
They may have already clinched, actually.
I think they did.
They may have. Or they may need, like, one of the teams that's, like, winless in district to lose one more game or something. Anyway, neither here nor there. They functionally clinched. But what's going to be interesting now is that we are going to... You may find us focusing on games that maybe are off your radar a little bit.
Those 3-4 seeds.
Because we're talking about 3 seeds, we're talking about 4 seeds, we're talking about games that are going to end up shaping the bracket on the fringes, right? We have a pretty good idea of where Carthage is going to be, right? Well, what I'm interested in is who's the 4th seed out of District 10. Those are the things we're going to be focusing on. And so as a result, this stretch run here is going to be a lot of filling in those outer gaps.
Which is funny because, like, even scheduling videographers, I've had some guys suggest, like, oh, what about this top game? And I'm like, but they're going to beat them by 50. Let's send you to a little bit lower of a game. Right. So that way we can see who wins that and know who's getting in the playoffs.
Exactly right. So those are my 3 big thoughts. 3 helmet stickers. A helmet sticker for Crosby quarterback Cyrin Miles. If you bury Crosby, a while ago. Like I
Shame.
get it. They lost their first 2 games to Manville and to who's this? To Manville and to Carthage. But they figured it out. And Cyrin Miles went nuts. 237, 3 touchdowns passing, 70 yards, and 2 touchdowns rushing. He was a monster for them. They figured it out. It's a helmet sticker for Cyrin Miles. A helmet sticker for the UTEP defense. I watched almost all of this game. Okay? Because I'm a sicko.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sicko. Guys, UTEP's defense is, like, genuinely good.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a fluke.
No.
It's not that they're playing bad teams.
Mm-mm.
Their defense makes plays.
Yeah.
They swarm.
They've got good size on them, too.
Their defense is not just like...
This UTEP team is not a fluke in general.
You can't fluke your way to bowl eligibility.
No. Not after only playing 7 games, too. You know, like, that's not a fluke.
Anyway, helmet sticker, UTEP defense, bowl eligible minors.
Yeehaw.
Picks up. Send me that shirt, Coach Neely. And a helmet sticker to Tyler athlete Derrick McFall. 3 carries, 68 yards, and 2 touchdowns rushing. He had a 16-yard catch and an 84-yard kickoff return for a touchdown for Cujo, for Derrick McFall, the Tyler athlete. A helmet sticker for him. 3 teams to watch. Not sure if you're paying a ton of attention to what's going on with Deer Park. But Deer Park, I would like to turn your attention to...
They beat Dobie?
To what's going on there. They beat Dobie last week. And they get a big win over Dobie. They had 2 losses in the middle, right before district play started, to Clear Falls and to Beaumont Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
But they have figured it out since then. They're 4-0 in district. I think they won the district by beating Dobie last week, and they beat them soundly, 49-28. Keep an eye on Austin Flynn's Deer Park. Whoosh, 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 Coach. So keep an eye on them. Howard Payne. I'm supposed to say this for my friends. Sting 'em.
Yeah. The Yellow Jackets.
Howard Payne is now 6-0. They have clinched their first winning season since like 2003.
That's
what did I have
wild
this?
to think about.
I tweeted this. I'll make sure I quote myself here. 6-0, clinched their first winning season since 2005. Their coach is Jason Bachtel. He was the offensive coordinator. Get this. This is wild. He was the offensive coordinator for Argyle last year. So the 2020 state champion Argyle Eagles. He was their offensive coordinator. He then leaves to go to Howard Payne. This is his second season coaching Howard Payne.
Wow.
Think about it. He has now coached 3 seasons in like less than a year, basically.
That's wild.
But he's got Howard Payne 6-0, first winning season since 2005. Sting him. And finally, Odom. I was trying to think of who's the least talked about undefeated team in the state.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of 8-0 teams, guys.
Mm-mm.
Odom's one of them. Okay, they body Monte Alto. They were much better. They're much better than Monte Alto. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what they've done before then.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Taft. They beat Banketti. They're going to win that district. I mean, they've got a well. Let me hold off on that. They got a big game at the end of the year, Week 10 against Hebronville. That's for the district championship.
Mm-hmm.
But Odom, Armando Huerta Jr. is doing an unbelievable job with the Owls. Keep an eye on Odom. If you haven't paid attention to what they're doing, they've got something cooking. 3 to see. Frisco and Lovejoy is a game we've been waiting for a while, ever since we thought Lovejoy was going to be pretty good. Frisco made it pretty apparent about 3 weeks in that they were going to be a force to be reckoned with. Mm-hmm. One of only 3 battles of unbeatens this year, or this week, along with there's a big private school game. Episcopal School of Dallas plays Houston, someone? Houston St. Thomas, maybe? I don't know. Mm-hmm. There's that. And then Abernathy plays Lubbock Roosevelt. Mm-hmm. But Frisco and Lovejoy is the game of the week, I think, in high school football. West Virginia and TCU. It's a weird slate of college football this week. Yeah. There's not a huge number. There's not a bunch of huge games. Mm-mm. But this is a real important game, I think, for TCU to get back on track against an offense that can't do much and get that defense going. And finally, El Dorado and Cristobal. This game's awesome. I'm really excited about this one. Corbin Covarrubias is one of my favorite players in the state at El Dorado. He's going to get really tested against his Cristobal defense. So, those are 3 to see. That is Monday Morning Fallout. Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.